This is Moments with Mary, and my guest today is Timothy Trocchio. And I'm glad you be here. You're a veteran.
Yes, ma'am.
A resident of Bridgewater.
Yes, I am.
All right, and a lawyer.
Yes.
All right, so we'll start with you grew up in Middleborough.
Yep.
How was Middleborough? Country-ish?
Yeah, so pretty country-ish, small town. Really enjoyed it. Small community. Initially growing up in Middleborough, I grew up in government subsidized housing, so grew up right down the street from the high school. And, one of my first memories of, when I first started coming online was walking to school and seeing a lot of my friends drive by in their cars while I was like the guy that was walking.
Yeah.
But no, the town was always been super, super supportive of me, starting from waiting in line at food banks at the St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank to when I deployed to Afghanistan. The local VFW, my friend's dad, was the commander of the VFW, and they were able to do a huge fundraiser and care package fundraiser and send us a care package. So
wow.
I love Middleborough, love it dearly.
I can see why. I'm very supportive. I've gone there a few times. They seem very family-oriented and community-oriented.
Well, I always joke with my buddy. I always go, they probably have like the most restaurants per capita and like the South Coast. I mean, I think Middleborough has a population of 25,000 people and probably almost 40 restaurants.
Yeah, but good ones.
Yeah.
Especially, I always hear people want to go down the Rotary.
Yep.
And eat down there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lorenzo's is great. I mean, I'm personally a Central Cafe pizza type guy.
Yeah. Well, at least you guys don't go hungry there.
Yeah.
We need a few more restaurants here, I guess.
Yeah.
So you're from a military family and you're a third generation.
Yes, ma'am.
So your dad and your grandfather, because of their stories,
Yep.
You wanted to go in. But in middle school, you were looking into the ROTC. What is that?
Yep. So, I'll kind of back everything up and I'll bring it up to researching ROTC. So my grandfather was enlisted as an 88 Mike, which is a truck driver in the Army. He was stationed out in Alabama during the civil rights riots and things like that. He was a bus driver, which was pretty cool. And I didn't really know about his military service or background too much until after he passed away. It was my dad that kind of started telling me about his military service. So my family's originally from Chelsea and Hyde Park area. So my dad grew up in Chelsea, grandfather originally from Hyde Park, went into Pipe Fitters Union. My dad enlisted in the Marine Corps, and he was a radio operator. He was stationed in the 3rd Marine Division, Camp Schwab, Okinawa, Japan. And that's how we met my mom. So I'm half Filipino, and basically wherever the Navy goes, the Marines go.
Yeah.
So my mom's from Olongapo, Philippines, in Subic Bay. They used to have a big Navy base out there, and that's where we met my mom. And I remember growing up on my dad's side of the family and going to Thanksgiving and Christmas and the cooler uncles and they talked about their time in the military, and they always talked about the people they met and the places they've been. And I just remember growing up and seeing my dad's military awards on the walls, like in my living room, and I didn't really understand what any of that meant.
Yeah.
Growing up, like I just knew he had like a real sense of pride in being a Marine, and that really impacted everything that I did in my life. I remember one of my first jobs I actually worked at McDonald's in Middleborough, and we had our little, at the time it was a white dress shirt with like a little goofy tie and a visor hat. And my dad used to tell me, he's like, this is not just your McDonald's like outfit. This is your uniform for work. You're going to make sure it's ironed. You're going to make sure it's starched probably a little bit further than what I'm wearing right now.
The service carries on.
Yeah. And, but it was those little things that he instilled in me that I really look back, and I look back at the timeliness, the cleanliness, all those little things growing up.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted a piece of that. I knew I wanted to be an Army officer. So initially I started looking at Air Force ROTC. So ROTC stands for Reserve Officer Training Corps. It's to be an officer. There's certain ways to be an officer in the military. So I'll kind of break it down. An officer is more so it depends on what perspective you have. So some officers are more administrative leaders, some officers are more organizational leaders, and some officers are very close to like the soldiers and people that are on the ground. But essentially, you're an organizational leader. So I first started looking at Air Force ROTC, which is a commissioning path.
Why Air Force?
Well, I thought I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Oh, okay. You had dreams.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, like, I thought I wanted to
cool.
be a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
And the standard for the Air Force, you have to be really good at math and science, which is something I am not.
Yeah.
So looked at the Air Force ROTC, and I'm like, all right, there's only one school that offered it. At the time, I don't know what it is now, but UMass Amherst had an Air Force ROTC program. But predominantly, most of the schools in the area were Army ROTC, minus Mass Maritime at the time had a Naval ROTC with Marine Corps option. And I started talking to my dad, and he's like, well, listen, you got to use the military as a tool. Use it as something that can enable you for like future success. He's like, okay, use it to pay for your school. And my dad always used to say, he's like, Tim, listen, you don't want to be a grunt like me. You don't want to be on the line in the Marine Corps. He's like, you're good at school. Become an officer and use it to pay for your education. So I initially applied to West Point. I didn't know any of this type of processes. Like, so West Point's our military academy for the Army, and you need a congressional appointment. And I didn't know, and I didn't have anyone to go to. Like, my dad was at a certain level in the military, and then once you get to another level, it gets a little bit more complex, and you don't have as many people to call on for kind of guidance, like at that point. And I was rejected to West Point. I still have the letter. It says I was class president in high school, track team captain. They said, hey, unfortunately, you weren't selected for West Point because you're lacking leadership. And I didn't understand, but it was because, not the right math scores or whatever. So
some doors have to close to make you go on the right path.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And I applied for the ROTC scholarship, and I was rejected for that. But I knew I wanted to serve. There was nothing that was going to stop me. So I went to Providence College. I paid for my first semester of school. And at the time, it was the height of the sequestration in 2013. So they were like really cutting a lot of the budgets and things. And basically the Army captain said, he goes, listen, you got to come in first place. We call it an OML, Order of Merit List.
Yeah.
PT test, GPA to get this Army scholarship. And,
But you hadn't joined the Army yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Nope. So I'm getting ready to apply for the Army scholarship, and I'm on campus. I sign up for ROTC, which is like a class. They teach you basic leadership fundamentals, land navigation, how to read a compass, how to look at ranks.
Yeah.
It's an additional elective in college. And so I applied for the scholarship. Day one, I show up. There's about 50 people, and half the people failed the PT test. So half of them were already out of the running. I passed. I wasn't really a stellar runner, but strong enough to hang in there. And, and I could see on the list that I was in third place.
Wow.
And the captain said, he's like, well, you got to be number one to get the scholarship. And I still had one more event left, and it was the interview. And it was with the ROTC colonel, a master sergeant, a captain, and a lieutenant. And I was out of 25 points, and I went in there and I gave the best interview I ever had in my life. I got a 24 out of 25. The two people I was competing with was actually two of my friends.
Wow.
And I passed them, came in first.
Good for you.
Got the scholarship, and then, we all ended up getting a scholarship, but it was about just...
So the scholarship was to go to college?
Correct. Yep. So it paid for all of my undergraduate everything from PC.
So you went to college before you joined the Army?
Yes, ma'am.
So why did you choose the Army? Because your father's a Marine, and your grandfather's an Army.
Yep. So I get that all the time. So, a lot of people, military guys will always kind of compare each other.
Oh, yeah.
And
one of my brothers was Army. One was Navy and one was Marine, and it was never stopped.
Yeah, so
and my dad was Army, so.
Yeah, so the joke is, it's like, okay, the joke is like, okay, Air Force, Chair Force, Marines, like crayon eaters, Army, like it's all, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So the reason I picked the Army was I wanted to, at the time, use the military as a tool.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get a full experience of grit, but also being an officer that had the ability to be promoted. Yeah. So how it works is that the Marine Corps is one of the smallest branches in the military. So what that means, it's going to be a little bit harder to promote. The Army is the biggest branch, and I knew I was going to be an officer. So my dad just said to me, he's like, hey, listen, like your opportunities are just going to be more in the Army. You're going to have, you're going to be able to get paid and get promoted. And, but that's what makes the branches like all a little different and a little bit special. The Marines, like their esprit de corps, their grit, their connection to each other is very, very tight.
Yeah.
Whereas the Army, we're similar, but we're never going to be the Marine.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see the difference when both my brothers came home from boot camp. The Marines, my brother was a total different person.
Yep.
And it's not that one's harder than the other, and it could have been because it was in the 70s, so it was really tough. But could see the difference, and even the way they talked. You know what I mean? The Marines are all like, hold, touching, yeah. So it's different, but they're smaller, like you said, so they have to be tighter. So how old were you when you went into the Army?
So I did 4 years of ROTC. I took my oath in 2014. I was I think 19 when I became a contracted ROTC cadet, which meant that once I graduated college, I was commissioning as an active duty officer. I don't count that as my military time, clock ticking because I wasn't in the military, but technicality. But I commissioned active duty May of 2017. I was 22 years old is when I left for active duty. I was my bullock, which we call it. Maybe older veterans won't remember it as OBC, Officer Basis Course. As lieutenants, you go to a basic school to learn how to be a lieutenant.
Do you go through boot camp too?
You don't go through boot camp.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, there's different commissioning options. Yeah, so I went to a cadet basic training, which was a few weeks shorter than boot camp. But you do 4 years of ROTC, so it's basically like doing regimentation training. It's basic. Boot camp is teaching you the basic soldiering skills.
Yeah.
You essentially can teach the basic soldiering skills anywhere. And what are the basic soldiering skills? Marching, shooting your weapon, following orders. But as an officer, your job more so is to analytically think and reason. So if you're looking down the barrel of a gun, you can't really dictate what's going on outside that sight post. As an officer, you have to look at everything surrounding. So the officers, everyone has a very strong baseline ability to soldier. Everyone has to. You're in the military. You're in the Army.
You don't have to take the gun apart and put it together.
Yeah, you learn how to do all that stuff. We all learn how to do that stuff. But I would probably say our basic training is our bullock, our lieutenant school when you first are a second lieutenant. And it's funny because the whole time you're in ROTC, you're like, oh man, I'm going to be an officer and I'm going to make it. Then you get there, and then you're the lowest guy.
Yeah.
Like a second lieutenant doesn't know anything. There's a joke. It goes, you can't spell lost without LT. You never have any clue what's going on.
Yeah.
So I was stationed at Fort Huachuca, Arizona. It was about an hour and a half south of Tucson. And that was a huge culture shock to me.
Yeah. I moved to Tennessee once, and it's like you're in another whole world.
Oh, yeah. It felt like I was on Mars. And then as I drove across the country. Took me 7 days. Nice. Yeah, so it was beautiful. And the further I got away from home, I started to realize that like the United States it's made up of its own Middleboroughs and Bridgewaters.
Yes.
like I was like, man, someone calls this their home. Like you know, I'm out and driving through Salina, Kansas, or Salina, Kansas. Someone was probably gonna say it's pronounced Salina, but I was driving through and I'm like, man, this is someone's Middleborough.
Yeah.
This is someone's home. Like, and the further you get away from home, I would say you hold more tightly to home.
Yeah.
I never had more pride in New England sports until I first was stationed far away.
Yeah.
And then you gravitate to other people that are from New England and Massachusetts. Like you hear guys like everyone goes, "Oh, where are you from?" And you go, "Oh, I'm from Boston." No one's ever really from Boston.
No,
They're always from
us. Yeah.
And then once you talk to them, you go, "Oh, well, where are you from?" "Well, I'm actually from Worcester." And you're like, "Oh, okay." "Well, I'm from Middleborough. I'm from Brockton." But you become such good friends because
you can understand each other.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Because down there it's all different.
Yeah.
I remember being corrected by because you'd go in line they don't really have Dunkin' Donuts in many places. Yeah. But you go and get a coffee, and they'll ask you a question, and I say, yeah. And then she goes, yes. Yeah. So I'm constantly and then I thought, I guess I do sound like slang going, yeah. And they all say yes. Mm-hmm. And they're very polite. I mean, I've never been in a line where people are being really nice. They're like they have all day.
Yep.
I was like, it's incredible.
Another thing is brum. Oh, yeah, you got the brum.
Yeah.
Like, just like weird stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, got to my first duty station, was very, very homesick. Graduated from Bullock as an intelligence officer. So that was we call it an MOS, Military Occupational Specialty. That's your job. And whatever I thought a military intelligence officer was, it was not that.
Not that exciting spy stuff.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be like James Bond.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, I have a top secret security clearance and all this stuff like that. But a lot of it is, like I said, at the officer level, your bread and butter, we call it, is MDMP, the military decision-making process. So we're producing a lot of these, I would say, war plans and game plans. And imagine like you're playing a giant chessboard.
Yeah.
Your job as the intelligence officer, at least my job, I was an all-source intelligence officer, is you play the role of the bad guy. So I'm the bad guy, and then you're playing the role of the U.S. forces. My job would try to be, okay, if I was the bad guy, why would I move in this direction based on my capabilities, based on the terrain? And we would war game, and then we would develop a thing called a COA, course of action. And then from there, it would allow the good guys to make certain decisions based on what would happen throughout time and space.
I guess that's good. So would you think about the culture? People from different cultures would attack differently? Like if you're against, we've been against different countries.
Oh,
like
yeah.
China.
Yep.
So you try to think how they would, and besides, if you're fighting on their ground, they know more than.
Oh, yeah. It's
But I imagine people learned a lot from Vietnam.
Oh, yeah. No, I think about that stuff, and I can tie this in. So I got to Fort Bliss, Texas, El Paso, Texas, which was right on the border of Juarez. And I was assigned to a combat aviation brigade, which is all the helicopters, CH-47s, big Chinooks.
Was that the first time you've been on a helicopter?
Yeah. It was crazy. I got to El Paso, Texas. I might as well have been on Mars, man.
Yeah.
It was like so flat and it was weird. It was just a different culture. And when I was in that unit, I deployed to Afghanistan. And I was a task force. We call it a task force S2. So I was an intelligence officer for all of Eastern Afghanistan for our helicopters. And what our helicopters would do is basically they would either do, we call them nightly air assault missions, or, some people would joke they're the Uber of the of the country.
Yeah.
So they drive everybody around. But my job was to brief the pilots and the ground force commanders as to where I would assess the bad guys to come from. And, going back to the Vietnam sentiment of like what it must have been like then and in comparison now, a lot of our bases that we had in Afghanistan were actually previous Soviet bases.
Oh.
They were owned by the Russians from when the
Wow.
Russians occupied, and it was a very weird, surreal experience being on a old Russian fort.
Yeah, really.
And it's like you're looking
Out in
at
the desert.
it's like very mountainous terrain. It was just weird knowing
Yeah.
that other guys were in the same exact spot
Yeah.
in the 70s and 80s doing the same exact thing, essentially fighting the same people. It was weird. It was
Yeah.
very weird. And I would
Like
think
going
about
back
that.
in time.
Yeah. And I would think about that. And I would think about my job. And I was like, man, I can't imagine being an intelligence officer in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I'd like to give a quick shout out. One of my closest friends and mentors, his name's Terry Brooks. He was an intelligence sergeant in Vietnam. He was in the Marine Corps. He was part of a unit called the Walking Dead. A lot of
Yeah.
Marines, a lot of people would know what that unit would be.
Yeah.
And he was a mentor of mine.
Oh,
Like
okay.
as time went on in my life, I always had a mentor and someone to encourage me.
Yeah.
He was my vice principal in elementary school.
Wow.
He was in the Marines, and I remember my dad would pick me up, and him and my dad would talk about the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, years later, I'm stationed out in Arizona, and I'm like, you know what? I want to reach out to Mr. Brooks, my elementary school. So I reach out to my friend's dad, who was the principal of the middle school in Middleborough, and I got Mr. Brooks's contact information, and him and I text,
Oh, good.
and we'll talk.
That was a smart move.
And I didn't really realize it, but like he was an intelligence sergeant in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Very similar job, but different. This is someone that would never talk about their military experience and service. He has, I believe, 2 Bronze Stars.
Wow.
And he's someone that doesn't wear a Vietnam War veteran hat,
Yeah.
doesn't have a Vietnam veteran plate, but none of that stuff.
Yeah.
But he used his GI Bill when he got out of the Marine Corps and went to Bridgewater State, got his teaching degree and became a teacher, and then
Wow.
later the vice. I mean, this guy,
Yeah.
you have these people all around,
Yeah.
and you would never know.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, that's very smart because, when they went into Vietnam, you watch the movies, and I don't know how realistic they are, but the soldiers didn't know, like, they would put down sticks that would fly up
Yeah.
and stick in them and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's good that you can see that they have different warfare in different countries.
Oh yeah. Well,
And you need to pass that knowledge on.
we always say you always fight the next war based on the last war.
Yeah, and you couldn't call the Russians and say, "Hey, what did you
what
guys?
What are you up to? You know.
Yeah, what'd you guys face while you were here?"
And it's always it's you always fight the next war based on the last war.
Yeah.
And it's good, and sometimes it's bad because you're facing like a totally different enemy. And I remember getting ready to deploy, and
Now you were an Army
Yep.
captain by this time.
I was an Army lieutenant.
Lieutenant.
I turned 25 when I was in Afghanistan, so I was
Wow.
24 years old.
Wow.
And fast forward a couple of years, and I got promoted to first lieutenant before he deployed, and I had my 25th birthday. And this is an awesome. I can show you pictures later, but
They celebrated it with you?
I did. So the pilot, one of the pilots, he was from Somerville, Massachusetts, Boston guy. Loved, like I said, the Massachusetts guys. We all just kind of stuck together.
Yeah.
His name was Jason Scappa. He's my friend on Facebook, and he was a warrant officer. And my job as the intelligence officer, you're always reading a lot of intelligence reporting and doing a lot of briefings. And it's sometimes you feel like you're not doing enough. You're not like, oh, I'm not the guy that's on the ground. I'm not the guy that's. So it was tough, So I always would try to leave the base in a helicopter as much as I possibly could. And Jason Scappa, the chief warrant officer Scappa, talked to the battalion commander, called the task force commander, goes, "Hey, sir, I'd like to bring Lieutenant Trocchio out for an orientation flight so we can see the battlefield." And when he didn't tell him it was my birthday, he goes,
That's
the
cool.
battalion commander goes, "Yeah, no problem." So what I did was for my birthday, I took the Massachusetts state flag, and I had the New England Patriots flag, so I might get emotional because it's so awesome.
Yeah.
And I flew it over the capital of Afghanistan.
Wow.
And I wanted, like, the people to know, like, who's running this. It's people from Massachusetts,
Massachusetts
like
running the
all of
show.
us. Like,
Yeah.
and it was a Massachusetts flight,
Yeah.
and I remember, like, just feeling, like, so awesome. I'm like, man, like, this is a cool birthday present. 25 years old, September 10th, and I'll never forget that. I will never forget that.
Can't beat that birthday.
It's not. My wife does a really good job planning my birthdays, but that's a tough one to beat.
That's a tough one to beat. I wonder if on the ground they're looking up thinking, what is this going on? Do they understand what football is?
No, they have
No.
they have their own foot. And you know what's really weird is, at least my experience, when we were flying over, and I got to fly over with an aircraft over Afghanistan multiple times. No one looks up at the helicopter.
No.
I just remember we flew from, they called it H-Kaya, which was actually the last spot where we did the American evacuation years later. I wasn't a part of that, but that's where they did the pullout. They had like a route. So the helicopter would fly from H-Kaya, Hamid Karzai International Airport, to Soccer Field, they call it, which was like this green zone compound in the middle of Kabul. So that was my birthday flight. We'd fly from H-Kaya to Soccer Field, back and forth, and the pilots put me on comms. They're like, "All right, sir, we're going to head, like, if you look to the right, you can see, like, the Afghan capital flag and all this stuff like that." And but I remember looking at the people, and no one would look up at the helicopter. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
it
because
was.
we all do.
Yeah, we all do. Like, you hear a helicopter now or a plane, you're like, "Oh, there's a plane, there's a helicopter."
I wonder if they're so used to it or
I
they're
think
afraid of it.
I think both.
Yeah.
I think both.
Yeah, because we always think, who's watching us?
Yeah.
Or with their,
They just wanted to ignore us. They just were like, all right, like, which I understand. I mean,
Yeah. Well, you're in there. So when you came home, so you went over there for 9 months in Afghanistan.
Yep.
And it must have been tough, I'm sure. So when you came home, you said you struggled a little bit.
Yeah. So initially, when I first got home, you're with, like, all your friends.
Yeah.
You're with people that can understand you at a totally different level.
Yeah. You're in war.
Yeah. I mean, we were so tight.
Yeah.
Those were, I would say my family.
Yeah.
I remember Jason Scappa going ready to do a mission. And I remember he says to me at the time the mission was to fly through some of the valleys in Nangarhar province from Bagram to, it was called the Torkham Gate in eastern Afghanistan. They had to go fly a general around, and they want to show him the battle space. Jason Scappa says to me, he goes, "Tim," goes, what do I go to expect? Like flying through the valleys and stuff. He goes, I want to come home to Boston too.
Yeah.
And that's the level of like intensity in feeling an emotion. Like when you're part of a planning process, like, man, like, wow, you know, this guy's life could potentially depend on if I'm missing an intelligence. But you're trying to paint a picture for these guys to have an understanding of what they're going to go do.
It's a lot of pressure. What were you, 25?
Yeah, 25, 24, 25. And you know, you think you know everything. I'm like, oh yeah, like, I've dominated everything. I'm the man. And then you're like, no, actually, you have little control over a lot of things. But I got back, and a lot of my friends moved to all different duty stations. They got promoted to captain. They would go to their captain's career course. And I thought I just had really bad anxiety.
Yeah.
But something didn't feel right. And in the Army, you always had like a chaplain that you could talk to, someone that you could go to. And I actually met one of my closest friends. He was in my wedding, Chaplain Rick Stevenson. He's a retired lieutenant colonel. He was actually a hospital chaplain. He was part of, he was in Iraq in 2005 as a hospital chaplain. I mean, these guys that you meet are the most incredible people.
Yeah.
Like people have no idea, like the amount of like what people can do in the military. It's incredible.
When you push to your limit, your potential come out. That's why I always thought those drill sergeants, they can turn you into a soldier. That's incredible. I mean, because a lot of them, 17, 18?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's kids. And one of the best sayings I ever heard was, you don't rise to the level of occasion.
Yeah.
You fall to the level of your training. And I still believe that to this day. You don't rise to the level, to that occasion. Yeah. You fall to the level of your training.
Fall of your training.
And your training is always what you rely on.
They get rid of all the garbage that you think of yourself, that you've gone through in your childhood, and they build you up.
Yeah. And that's the baseline.
That's incredible. But, you know, we talk about we don't rehab. We can't rehabilitate criminals. But if we take these young kids that are first getting in trouble and stuff like that and put them into a boot camp by drill sergeants, and not teach them, shooting and stuff, but have them in there, I think they could come out as better. I mean, if you can change a kid into a soldier, I think you can change a kid into being on the right track.
I think it depends on the individual. So, for example, you're only going to be a soldier if you want to be a soldier.
Right.
Like, if you don't have it in you.
I'm not really talking about like a soldier. I'm just thinking like to build them up.
Oh, yeah. To give them structure and guidance.
It's like a boot camp prison.
Yeah.
So if they're first not when they first start getting in trouble.
I actually saw something like that, actually very similar. Other states, I don't know how true, but I went to Fort McCoy, Wisconsin while I was in the Army Reserve.
Wisconsin, how was that?
It's whatever you imagine it to be, that's what it is.
Is it?
It was a beautiful area, but so when I left active duty, I went in the reserve, and I was at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. They had something similar to that. They had like a program that kids would elect into, and you'd see them marching around. They all looked pretty disciplined and stuff. But going back to the PTSD thing, it wasn't until I got to Fort Bragg as a captain where I really kind of started to feel alone.
Where's Fort Bragg?
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yeah, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Actually, Greg Martin was in the 82nd Airborne Division.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was his unit. He was jump qualified. I was not a jump qualified guy. So I ended up getting out and going to get my law degree.
Yeah.
So it was, I knew at the time that the pressures of the Army were really starting to build up.
Yeah.
And when I say the pressures, I mean the loneliness of, okay, all my friends that I deployed with I'm no longer with them. At the time I was single too, your priorities in life start to change as you get older.
Yeah.
So I started to think about, well, I want to get a girlfriend and I want to settle down and I want to go home and I want to maybe go to law school. So a lot of these other doors kind of start to appear.
Yeah.
And, but it wasn't, I always thought that, I'm a personable guy. I go home on leave all the time. I'm a fun guy. I talk all the time. I shouldn't have post-traumatic stress. I was an intelligence officer. I wasn't an infantryman.
Yeah.
I wasn't and then you start to have this guilt.
Yeah.
And well, I don't deserve to have PTSD. I don't deserve to have this struggle or this feeling.
Yeah.
And when I got out of the Army, I really, really, really started connecting with other veterans.
Yeah.
And you feel alone in the sense that, like, who can I talk to even remotely understands this experience I just had for almost 6 years of my life?
Yeah.
And then you come back and then you're like, boom, like you're in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Like it's like you leave this world. And it was the Vietnam veterans that were we had a lot in common with the Vietnam guys and the Afghanistan guys. And you start to meet these people. And I first started going to behavioral health at UMass Dartmouth while I was in law school. And the reason that brought me to it was, like, you had a lot of unprocessed, I would say trauma, and you'd have unprocessed feelings and emotions of everything.
Yeah.
Because the military, it travels very, very fast, and you're always with your community. And when I left that community, it felt weird.
Yeah.
I felt like an alien. I remember talking to people, and I would listen to people talk, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, I went out to eat the other day with my wife, and we got, I don't know, steak, and she got chicken." And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not listening to anything that you're telling me right now because you have no clue what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
That's not a normal way to live. That's not but your perspective on life and everything
you just
changes.
went through that.
Yeah.
You were in a whole different world.
Yeah. And there's people that do it multiple times.
Yeah. I don't know how they do that.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, but, I've learned a lot about myself, about a lot of other veterans. And you get the best thing about it is, like, you start to connect at this level.
So you found the help because you were in college and they had something?
Yep.
So all the colleges have that. I think that's really good.
And then I started going to the VA.
Yeah.
And at first...
At Brockton?
Yep, at the Brockton VA. At first, you look at it and you go, the VA is a very scary process. It's a foreign process. It's this bureaucratic process. It's big. It's scary. I don't know who to go to.
Yeah.
One of my good friends, Scott Blake, he's the veteran service officer for the town of Rainham. He deployed 3 times to Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, he was an infantry officer, absolute stud.
So he knows.
He knew how to get you into the VA. And then when you start going through the process, it's not as complicated as you think.
Yeah.
There are teams of people that are there, starting with your veteran service officer in your hometown. It's required by statute here in Massachusetts to have a veteran service officer. Or if you don't have a veteran service officer, another town will cover down for that.
Yeah.
They are the initial point of contacts to help you with a VA disability, getting into the VA, working towards maybe understanding a VA home loan. That was my initial entry point into the VA. And then when I started using the VA, I realized that there were so many amazing programs that the VA offers that no one ever, at least I think, no one really knows about.
What kind?
So I used this program. So initially I used my GI Bill.
Yeah.
So you get a GI Bill, and I had a scholarship to go to UMass Law, which is the only state law school here. So I had the GI Bill and the scholarship. A lot of veterans talk, and they say, hey, there's this program called VRE, Voc Rehab Education. You should try that program out. And the difference, so what that program does is that instead of exhausting your GI Bill, you use that program to go into a vocation. So, like, this program specifically designed for people that are transitioning from very specific jobs, potentially in the military, to learning how to be a plumber, an electrician.
Okay.
But it's been expanded for people to get a law degree, an MBA, a nursing degree. I mean, it is an absolutely incredible program. And then you get matched up with a counselor. And here's the difference between the GI Bill and the VRE. The GI Bill, you don't have a specific counselor from the VA. You just get payments from the VA that pay for your school and pay for your books.
Yeah.
The VRE will match you up with a counselor who will check in on you monthly to make sure you're doing your coursework. How's your GPA? Is there anything that you need from us? Does your back hurt when you use that chair? We could potentially get a chair for you.
Wow.
The program is incredible. And what they do is that they also will host programs for veterans to get suits and ties.
Wow.
Up in Boston, up in Cambridge. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. So the VRE program does that. They check up on you And when you graduate, the goal of the program is to make you job ready, they call it. So you achieved your certification, you achieved your vocation. Now they help you find a job.
Wow. Is that why you encourage young kids to join the military? Because it opens up their future?
It was the most, I always say, for Tim personally, I said, it was something I personally would never do again, but I would never take that experience ever away.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult and hard experience, but it shaped me in ways. I made so many amazing friendships and got to meet so many amazing people. I would encourage any young person that's considering going into the military, do your research. You know, some branches I knew I enjoyed the idea of going into the Army.
Yeah.
You could be someone that would say, like, the military has so many jobs that you would never understand. You can be a veterinarian. You could be a pharmacist. You could be a doctor. You could be a lawyer. You could be a meteorologist in the Air Force.
Now, when I see those Army and Navy bands, do they go in there because they're musically talented?
Yes. So
Because I always like, are they?
So when I was in the 82nd Airborne, I had we call it staff duty. A lot of other veterans might refer to it as fire watch, 24-hour, rotations, barracks and stuff like that. But part of my checks was the division band of the 82nd Airborne, and I went to go to the division band. I walk in, and it was a staff sergeant, and I was a young captain. The dude calls the whole room to attention, which was the weirdest, the first time in my life that's ever happened. I walk in and they
Now
go.
you feel important.
I was like, whoa. When I said, I was like, oh, relax. I'm going to relax. I'm like, who am I? I'm a nobody. And so anyways, it was the division band. I said, how do you guys, so he gives me, he's like, sir, would you like to see the division band? I was like, dude, yeah. I want to check it out. It's something that's very, very niche. And I said, how do you become part of the division band or music?
Yeah.
What happens was, from what at the time and how he described it is, you will, if you want to be part of the Army band, they have these regional coordinators per region for the entire country. They will give a student, let's say, I don't know, you play the clarinet. They give the student 4 different sheets of music. You want to play the clarinet. They don't tell you which one they're going to assess you on, but then you go into a room and you audition for it. And that's how you're selected. It's through like the selection regional process.
So
but that's your primary job.
So if some kid wanted to join, and he's very musical, and he wanted to join the Army, does he do that first to see if he gets into that program before he enlists in the Army, or that's going to happen afterwards?
They would do that probably simultaneously. So they're going to make sure that like you're physically fit, you're mentally capable to actually join, and then they'll work through that process. Yeah.
But they'll guarantee that if you pass, you can go into
yes,
like a music thing.
Yeah. It's a very unique thing. They're not, if you're going through the whole process of being an Army musician or a band player, they're not gonna
say, sorry you didn't make it.
I mean, so
you're in the Army now, right?
I got out over the last year.
Okay.
Transitioned out.
Transitioned out. So when did you start UMass?
So I started UMass in 2022.
Okay.
Yep. I just graduated law school this past May.
Oh, okay. But you were still...
I was still in the reserve.
And you almost didn't go because you were on hold.
Yeah.
Because you might have gotten shipped to Poland because of Russia and Ukraine.
Yes. That was when I was in the 82nd. And I got accepted to the law school. I was at the Captain's Career Course. So after I graduated the Captain's Career Course, I get to the 82nd Airborne. And while I was there, the 82nd Airborne, we call it a brigade, a unit from the 82nd Airborne Division, was tasked. You know, we always call it like the 82nd or the 101st. They're part of the 18th Airborne Corps, and those are more of the rapidly deployable divisions in the Army.
They're from Kentucky, right?
101st is from Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
My son-in-law was.
Yep.
Yes.
And they
get deployed a lot.
Yeah, they get. So you are at basically, if the President of the United States calls, that is, in theory and in doctrine, it should be be able to deploy, but anywhere within this world, within a 6-hour notice.
Yeah,
that's what makes the 82nd Airborne, 101st, a lot of these units very, very special and unique. The Marine Corps, they're smaller, they can do that too. They're also a rapidly deployable force.
Yeah,
and you think about that, you're like, okay, that's pretty simple. It's a very complex task. To move thousands of soldiers, pieces of equipment, thousands of miles, coordinating personnel and equipment in time and space.
Yeah, I saw it when he got deployed to Afghanistan.
Yep.
And then they just come back for a little while,
Yep.
and then they get deployed again.
Yep. That unit, when I graduated the captain's career course, was the same unit that was at HKIA during the pullout.
Yeah.
So when I got there, that's all the guys talked about. They were their tight-knit community too.
Yeah.
You know, and then you show up as the new guy.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, who's this guy? He wasn't part of this thing. But everyone ends up welcoming into the pack. But the unit deployed, and I remember, you know, this would have been the second time I had to defer to law school. And I knew, like, once I asked to go basically to law school, that my time active duty was coming to an end.
Yeah.
And the unit allowed me to stay in the rear detachment. But, I mean, it was extremely, extremely stressful. I've never seen, you know, anything like people don't understand this. I remember when the unit was getting ready to deploy, you have to bring your rucksack, your duffel bag, your Kevlar helmet in, and you do everything in a sequence. And when the unit finally got the call to deploy, I remember it was raining outside, and I worked in the division headquarters building, which is where the general works. It's this big, beautiful building. And I remember seeing, like, these majors, these people run to their cars to go say bye to their family one last time before they would drive back to the airfield and then deploy to Poland.
Yeah.
People have no idea, like, what the capabilities and, like, the amount of courage and dedication these people have. It's absolutely insane.
It is. It's your own call 24/7.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to go.
Yep.
So then you went into law school.
Mm-hmm.
And you picked UMass.
Yes.
Why UMass?
UMass offered me a scholarship.
Okay.
But I hit it off great with the admissions director, Melissa Costa. I started talking to her when I was a lieutenant in El Paso. I was interested in joining the Army JAG Corps. And so I started doing some more research. Okay, how do I become an attorney?
So that's the JAG is lawyers.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So anyways, got accepted to UMass Law while I was at CCC. And I got to this decision point in my life where I'm like, okay, what should I do? And I decided that the best way to continue my service while I was in law school was to transition into the reserve. So remember how I said I went to Providence College?
Yeah.
I did ROTC. So you're meeting with the Army Reserve recruiter when you're going to leave active duty. They show you all these different billets and positions that are available to you. And I remember one of my ROTC instructors, at the time he was a major in the Army Reserve as a logistician, transportation type officer. And him and he was my friend on Facebook. I'd talk to him once in a while. Reached out to him. I said, hey, sir, I'm getting ready to leave active duty. I'm going to law school, blah, 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 blah. He goes, we're actually looking for an intelligence officer for our unit.
Oh.
And I ended up going to his Army Reserve unit, where now he's a battalion commander.
Wow.
He's a lieutenant colonel. And I go to that unit. And that's the first unit I went to in the reserve out of Londonderry, New Hampshire, while I was in law school. And Joe Winott ended up coming to my wedding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he got promoted to full bird colonel.
Wow.
And now he's a full bird colonel out at the Pentagon.
Wow. You got to go to the White House.
Yes.
That was when you were in law school.
Yes.
So you said you picked law school because when your time in Afghanistan, you saw how legal deeply affects people's lives?
Yeah.
So what did you see in Afghanistan? They don't have law and order, huh?
It's totally... The law is something that, like, no one can really see.
Yeah.
But you feel that its presence is there.
It affects your life.
Yeah. And we would have these things called the rule of engagement. Rules of engagement. You know, there's certain elements that need to be met in order for an enemy to be eliminated. There's so many different things that dictate regulations. It all starts with the law and understand. But I got to see how powerful it was to be an Army officer while I was in the Army. And I got to see the level of impact that I had on soldiers and people that I worked with, and the amount of trust that you're able to build with these people. I still talk to my NCO, my staff sergeant, who's now a sergeant first class, almost up for master sergeant E8, to this day. I mean, he's one of my closest friends, one of my dearest friends. Him and I worked together every day in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something that I felt was going to be the closest to that. And in my eyes, that was going to be an attorney. giving advice, helping people at a very difficult time. No one ever wants an attorney. You never really go to an attorney until you're in trouble. So graduated law school, and I'm an incoming assistant district attorney in Suffolk County up in Boston. And, tying back again to the veteran stuff, I was actually recruited.
Wow.
By the chief of the narcotics unit, John Mooney. He's an assistant district attorney. And he was a former captain in the United States Army in my unit, in the 1st Armored Division.
Wow.
10 years before I was in that unit.
Wow.
And he was in Iraq.
Wow.
And he was a field artillery officer. So you can guess how that first interview went.
Really well.
Really well. So that's joining the military wasn't a transactional thing. Like initially you're like, okay, I'm going to join. I think I'm going to do this. The amount it matriculates and spreads to other parts of your life is incredible. And that's the most recent example that I have of that.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought in a million years that would have ever happened.
No, because you don't join the military thinking that.
Yeah, no way. It will pay dividends, like service locally. Yeah. Service. You learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about relying on other people relying on you, and you learn to screw up. Yeah. You learn to get in trouble, not in bad trouble, but you learn what's expected of you in a professional environment.
Yeah.
And that cannot be replicated anywhere else on the civilian side.
That's why you encourage businesses to hire veterans, because you guys, you have to do a task, you have to get it done.
Yeah.
And what I thought what you said was very important, because some people don't like having a boss, but you guys realize there is a chain of command, and you respect that. Yep. And you don't see that often, the way people talk to one another, or even their manager or anything like that.
Yep.
So you have you gone out and talked to businesses about hiring? Or are you just something you're working on?
This is something that I when I was getting out of the Army, I wanted to see how strong my resume was. Yeah. So I started to apply to some places. I knew I was going to go to law school, but I wanted to see what people thought of my resume. And I sat through this interview process with Suffolk Construction, actually, to be a project manager. And I start talking to them. And the first thing I said to the guys, I said, I've never worked a day in my life in construction. I said, I never even put a piece of nail to wood. Yeah. That's just not who I am. I don't know how to build anything. But they were more interested in my ability to plan and deconflict. And being able to, what a lot of veterans struggle with, and what I struggled with initially, was being able to talk about what you're capable of. Yeah. And what a business can use that capability for. So when I was transitioning out from active duty reserve, you got to go through a thing called SFLTAP, Soldier for Life Transition Assistance Program. Yeah. A lot of soldiers, everyone has to go through it. It's about a week long. They teach you how to build a resume, certain things like that, but it's very, very fast, and it provides you a baseline of knowledge. There was a soldier in there, and he was applying for a job, and his job was actually a mortarman. Do you know what a mortarman is in the military? No. It's a guy that drops these rockets into this mortar and shoots it in direct fire, like artillery.
Oh, okay.
During his interview process, the interviewer goes, "Oh, so you're a mortarman?" He's like, "Yep." He goes, "So, is that like masonry? Like you're laying the bricks and laying everything?" And the dude's
That's what I would have thought.
So now you take that.
Yeah.
And it's that much harder for veterans to get into the workplace, because it's, people want to hire veterans and they want to say, okay, I hire veterans, but they don't know how to utilize them. Yeah. They don't know how to say, oh, okay, you have a lot of these other capabilities, but I don't know how to, I know you're just a veteran. I don't understand. I know that's important. I know that's really cool. I know you're disciplined, but you learn so much stuff. And I would say it would be beneficial for local business to hire veterans, is because they're able to work in a team. Yeah. Veterans, people that had overall positive military experiences, good military experiences, understand what it's like, I said earlier, to have people rely on you. And you're able to build a level of confidence, where a veteran, I would argue, could go up to a boss or go up to a supervisor and genuinely say to the supervisor, hey, I'm having issues at this level. Here's what I'm thinking for a solution. that's what the military teaches you that a lot of people don't have the ability to do, right? Like what I've seen. People will say, hey, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
But they don't come with a solution.
No.
In the military, you have to come with a solution.
When I worked in an aerospace manufacturing, and you couldn't walk in my boss's office with a problem if you didn't think that you could have at least present one solution. He'd say, no, go out, think of a solution, and come back, and then we can discuss it, and we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And he taught me that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the military teaches you. You know,
Yeah.
and I think you want someone who's on time.
Yeah. Not
The
in
military's
pajamas, dress nice.
veteran. I mean, it is the perfect package.
It is.
You know?
It really is. You just have to teach and do classes to maybe teach them how to turn that skill they have so it presents in an everyday skill. I mean, you know, being a martyr, what are you going to do with who can shoot? But
Yep.
if you look at what he had to learn and what he's capable of doing, pinpointing that thing to go there, you can see that he's very intelligent. He's just not pushing a button and
Yep.
it's going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you were the president of the Veterans Law Association, which led the visit to the White House.
Yes.
So what'd you go do at the White House, and what year was that?
So this was, probably last year. Now I was a 3L in law school, and I was the president of the Veterans Law Association. When I first got to law school, it was a small organization, and then started building up. And so what we did was we ended up coordinating a food drive. So when you had the hurricanes in North Carolina and Florida, it reminded me of the care packages that I got when I was deployed. And I figured, you know what, we're in a position here in Massachusetts to help other people.
That's a good idea.
So what I did was I started coordinating, and it's very similar to the military, with the VFW,
Yeah.
with the American Legion, with these other groups that are located in North Carolina and Florida, to send them food because they have access to like these distribution points.
Yeah.
So I started calling people and saying, hey, like we're going to do a food drive up here in Massachusetts. Where can we send this to? So my coordination started with the Student Veterans of America. And what we were able to do was we raised almost over 300 pounds of food
Oh, wow.
to send 150 pounds down to North Carolina and 150 pounds down to Florida, all through coordination with the Student Veterans of America, the American Legion, and VFW.
Wow.
And through that process, our organization got a award from the state rep for that district, Chris Markey, came and gave us this award from the Massachusetts State House. And from there, our regional coordinator, the Student Veterans of America regional coordinator, goes, hey, we have access to this, the presidential turkey pardon.
Oh, you went to the...
Are you interested in going? And it's next week. And I go, yeah, deal. So I bought a ticket, got a hotel room, and was able to see the presidential turkey pardon. But I mean, that was a really, really awesome experience. I got to see the first GI Bill that was signed into law by FDR.
Wow.
They have 3 copies. They have one at the Student Veterans of America headquarters in D.C., one at the American Legion headquarters in D.C., and one at the VFW headquarters in D.C.
Wow.
And I got a picture next to the one at the
That's
SVA
very
headquarters.
cool.
Yeah.
Did you go in the White House?
I didn't go to the White House. I was in the in the lawn.
On the Rose Garden or something like that? Yeah. That is very cool.
Yep. And I got I wanted to take things home for people.
Yeah.
I got a whole bunch of napkins.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And then I got home, I was given hey, this is a napkin from the White House.
That's funny. That's something that I would do.
Mm-hmm.
So you did some public service work, so you could get a 50% tuition discount. So it's the Public Interest Law Fellowship.
Yes.
So it made school affordable to you.
Yes.
So is that for law or because you're a veteran? How does that work?
It was basically at UMass Law is the #1 public interest law school almost in the country, but definitely in the state. And public interest law school means you're going to go serve for a governmental agency. You're going to go work for the state or the federal government. You're going to be a public defender or a prosecutor, or maybe an immigration attorney, environmental attorney, things like that.
But you have to do like 200 hours
Yes,
to get that.
200 hours. So
That's a lot.
you have to volunteer at like a town hall and things like that. So where I did my volunteer hours was at the Rainham Town Hall with my buddy, Scott Blake. So I got to see how a veteran service officer operates, and I started to interface with veterans and see what they needed and who they were and what their experiences were. And, and so that kind of fed into a lot of, what I think of like daily.
Yeah.
And so I did half of my hours there, and I did my other half of my hours at the governor's office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what did you learn there? You don't want to go in politics?
It's a very stressful job, and I'll
Yeah.
leave it up to the professionals. I mean, you're in meetings all day. That was a tough job.
And everybody's after you. Nobody's happy with
No,
your decisions. Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough, yeah.
So you worked in the Veterans Treatment Court. What is that?
So I'm going to work in the Veterans Treatment
going
Court.
to?
Yep. So I was recruited, so I just took the bar exam.
And you passed?
I'm hoping I'm going to get it in the results in October, which is the longest wait of my entire life.
I
It's
know, they
terrible.
make you wait that long.
Yeah, everyone.
Did you feel like you did good? Well, you've had what? You've worked in other offices, right?
Yep.
To get experience.
Yep.
How was that the first time you walk in and you're in a courtroom and this is where you're going to be?
I mean,
Is that intimidating?
I love it.
Do you?
I never really felt intimidated just because of my experiences in the military.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
You rely on back.
Been in the war. What's this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, you draw these comparisons, and it's very unique. It's cool. So I worked at a criminal defense firm for a UMass Law alum, Kurt Hagstrom, down in New Bedford. That was really cool. Worked at a laborers union defense firm
That's
in
tense.
Wills, everything like that.
Yeah.
Up in Burlington.
So you get an idea of different laws where you want to.
Yeah.
Because you can go to different areas of law, right?
Yeah. And I did my pro bono hours with a woman that I know, Sarah Cedarholm from Middleborough, does wills and trusts down the
Wow.
Cape.
Oh.
So
That was-
I learned a little bit about everything.
And so I got to go back. There's a veterans treatment
Yes.
court. What's that?
So here in Massachusetts, it's not required by statute, but a lot of counties do things a little bit differently. So let's say it's starting to become more prevalent. It's more of a rehabilitation type program. So let's say, for example, you are a veteran, right? You get pulled over for potentially DUI
Yeah.
or a simple assault and battery, and this is your first offense. What we do in the Veterans Treatment Court is that everyone essentially in the Veterans Treatment Court is a veteran. So we have the ability to read your military records, your DD-214, and understand your process, what you're doing at the VA.
Yeah.
And what the diversionary program is prior to arraignment, the Veterans Treatment Court can recommend that you get treatment for maybe alcohol abuse, post-traumatic stress, any of these stressors that went untreated that potentially caused this incident
Yeah.
without it having going on your on your record.
Wow. So any veteran in Massachusetts can go to the Veterans Court?
It depends. It depends on
What you've committed?
what you committed, and there's always like a whole bunch of multiple different factors. But the Veterans Treatment Court, at least in Suffolk County, is every Friday. So depending on the influx of veterans and things like that, depends on how busy it is. I personally not have had the opportunity to work in it yet. I'm very, very excited, but that's what I'm able to ascertain from the guys that I talk to.
So if you pass, you're going to be working in the assistant district attorney for Suffolk County?
Yep. So I will be an assistant district attorney. So I would appointed under Kevin Hayden, the district attorney for Boston. I'm not sure what courthouse I'm going to be working in just yet, but I'll be a criminal prosecutor. So primarily working with the Massachusetts State Police, Boston PD, MBTA Transit, and you'll be a line prosecutor. There's different career progression steps. So you start out in the district court as a line prosecutor. So
What's a line prosecutor?
So you're doing bail hearings, arraignments.
Start with the simple stuff.
Yep, you start with the simple stuff, and they build you up. You're kind of learning. But from what I understand is when you work at a DA's office, it's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
You get a ton of stuff, which I enjoy. But from what I understand, I'll specifically be at trial. So at trial, you always have an opportunity to elect for a trial by the judge or trial by the jury. Trial by the jury, if you have sentence greater than a year, whatever. So anyways, I will be at trial. So I'll be representing the Commonwealth at trial.
So you can be handling murders and all kinds of stuff.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah.
So initially, I'll probably start out with like DUIs is a big one. And then after 2 or 3 years, the career progression is then you go up to the Superior Court, which is that's the murders, that's the negligent homicides, that's a lot of drug trafficking charges, sex trafficking charges, things like that. District Court, from what I've seen, misdemeanors and DUIs, simple assaults.
Can you choose? Like if you don't want to go up to the murders, can you choose a different direction?
They have different units. You can probably recommend what unit you want to be in, but ultimately it's probably going to be up to based on your experience, and then probably the needs of the court and the needs of the office. So, and I'm willing to experience anything that I can help out in. So
move up, and you're willing to learn all that.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the job. Is from what I understand I enjoy criminal law, so that's something I really really enjoy.
So you probably move up because you like the challenge.
Hopefully, if my boss thinks I'm doing a good job,
I think you will. I mean, you've gone through so much. I think you got a good, handle on a lot of stuff. So you encourage the veterans to volunteer locally.
Yes.
Why do you think that's important?
So I'm part of the Veterans Council here in Bridgewater. Not every town has a Veterans Council.
Yeah.
That's very unique.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I know Middleborough, my hometown, doesn't have one.
So you're talking about a VA?
No.
Like Greg?
Yeah. Well, the Veterans Council that we're appointed to help Greg.
Oh, okay.
Our thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not every town has a Veterans Council.
Oh, okay. The council, the committee.
Yeah, the committee.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, now I got it. Yeah.
So
why won't they have that?
I don't know. I think it's based on like maybe needs.
Yeah.
Probably needs or recommendations or.
I think the VA should have a support.
Yeah.
Okay.
But locally, I think it's important for veterans to get involved because eventually what I see is older, like let's say Vietnam veterans, you look around and they're the only guys that are at the events.
Yeah.
It's all Vietnam guys and everyone's getting older. Everyone's getting tired.
Yeah.
Granted, I think there's probably more Vietnam vets than Iraq and Afghanistan because of drafts and things like that. But I look around and I'm always one of the youngest vets.
Yeah.
And when I was part of the Student Veterans of America, there are veterans out there that are around my age, but I don't know if it's a demographic change or things are changing with what people like to do with their time or with social media, or I don't know. But I encourage people to get involved locally is because like who's going to kind of take the charge when the Vietnam vet guys aren't around and when it's like, okay, well, we still have these events, we still have Purple Heart recipients. We still have all these flag days. We still have 4th of July. We still have Memorial Day. And then that's what I would like younger veterans. When I say younger veterans, I'm 31. Guys probably like Global War on Terrorism, GWAT veterans, to get involved.
Yeah.
I know there's a ton out there.
So how could you reach out? We'll have to figure out a way.
Yeah.
Even for this town. Because, I mean, we had Scott Pitter come before us when we were in I'm on the finance and budget for the council committees. Mm-hmm. And he was showing how much wealth they bring into a town.
Yeah.
And, so if we're bringing that many, there's a lot of them in there. And somehow we should be able to reach out to them.
Yeah. There's and I think, too, it's, I think through social media is a big one, like reaching out on, like, I know we have, like, the Bridgewater Residents page. I know it's probably not an official page, but I see a lot of people on that.
Yeah.
I know guys on the Veterans Council post on that page. I post on that page, Greg. But if there's any means of communication, we're gonna try to hit it. But I don't know what's difficult for people to come out and serve and volunteer. I got to meet you through the process, and then you kind of feel like a better sense of this. Kind of ties back to like the less feeling of feeling alone.
Yeah.
You start to become invested in your town and the people around you, and you're like, hey, Mary, what's up? Like, hey, Greg, how's it going? Hey, like we walked in the 4th of July parade.
Yeah.
And that was an amazing experience. Like I'm walking and we took the turn onto the main road and I see it felt like thousands of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm walking there. It's me, Greg, Dave Seiden. And I almost like came to, like, I was crying. I had my, like, sunglasses on. I'm like, whoa.
So many people.
It was incredible.
And where are they? Why don't they come to committees and stuff like that? That's what I've been trying to, as a town council, when I first got on, there's a fall festival at the campus, and I had a table there. Mr. Dutton helped me get a table. And I was just trying to talk to everyone, committees. So I think what we're going to try to do at the town council, I spoke to the town manager about having one of the committees come before the town council and just talk about what they do, because I don't think people realize that you only meet like twice a month.
Yeah.
But you get to know the town. So asking questions, if you're on the planning board or any of it, you get to know so much. Just being a town council, I know more. I feel like this is almost like a hometown to me because I know so many people. Because when I first came, I've been here since 2015. I didn't really know. You know what I mean? You don't really get involved. I didn't.
Yeah.
But once you get involved, you feel part of the community.
Yes.
And you get to know the people.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to have to wrap it up. It's been about an hour, but I appreciate it. And after you get your license, come on back and we'll talk about now that you're a lawyer.
Yep.
So I thank you very much, Tim, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mary. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right.